The day of Ashura had ended, but the silence that followed was heavier than the cries of battle. Karbala stood as a graveyard of sacrifice, where the companions of Imam Husayn alayhi salam lay martyred. The survivors, women and children, huddled together, their eyes hollow with grief. In the shadow of a ruined tent sat Ali ibn Husayn. Frail with illness, though bound in chains, he carried the weight of imamate and the legacy of Karbala upon his shoulders. It was by the order of Umar ibn Sa'd that the caravan was set into motion. They were dragged through the battlefield, forced to see the lifeless bodies of their loved ones. And so began the march. The daughters of Fatima, the orphans of Husayn, and the Imam of their time, led through the scorching plains under the lash of soldiers. Even water, the simplest gift of Allah, was denied to them. Their thirst stretched endlessly. Step by step the caravan moved, every mile a wound, every chain a mark of their oppression. At last appeared the city of Kufa, awaiting. As they entered the city, the streets rang with jeers, yet their silence spoke louder. Imam Sajjad and the women of Ahlul Bayt were dragged through Kufa's markets, unveiled and in chains. Before the gates of the governor's palace, the prisoners stood, waiting to be judged not by justice but by arrogance. In the hall of power, Ibn Ziyad sat in pride, mocking the chained Imam before him. That night, the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam was cast into a dark cell. Children trembled in fear, women sat in exhaustion, and Imam Sajjad bore the silence of chains. In the stillness, Karbala returned to him, his father Husayn standing alone, tents consumed by fire, and the cries of orphans piercing the night. He had witnessed it all, helpless, yet destined to preserve it forever. But the trial of Imam Sajjad was not over. Orders came from Damascus. The captives were to be taken to Yazid himself. Chained again, Imam Sajjad and his family were driven from Kufa. The Mazlum Imam walked for days, sick and barefoot, without food or water. Under a starless sky, Imam Sajjad sat in chains, carrying a grief no darkness could conceal. Their path carved across history, from Karbala to Kufa, and now to Damascus, a journey of blood, tears, and truth. At last, Damascus rose before them, its towering gates opened not to welcome but to humiliate the family of the Prophet. Unveiled, Lady Zainab was paraded through the streets in sorrow. The martyrs' heads were raised on spears in mockery as Imam Sajjad and the captives wept through Damascus. Yazid's palace was decorated in joy. Imam Sajjad climbed the palace steps, each chain's clink echoing his strength and patience. Imam stood in the grand hall, weak in body but unbroken in spirit. From his throne, Yazid sipped his goblet. His eyes burned with mockery, watching their pain as entertainment. Chains rattled as the Prophet's family was pushed inside. The Imam lifted his head. Across the hall, his steady eyes struck Yazid with silent defiance. In the tyrant's court, Lady Zainab endured, grief wrapped in dignity. Laughter echoed. The chained family of the Prophet was ridiculed, their oppression turned into spectacle. Bruised, starved, and shackled, the Imam stared forward. Yazid ordered the blessed head of Imam Husayn to be brought. In cruelty, he struck it with his whip. Lady Zainab intervened and delivered a powerful sermon that shook the palace. The courtiers who once mocked now sat in heavy silence, their hearts struck by her words. Yazid's mask trembled. Fear touched his eyes, though he clung to arrogance. Then Imam Sajjad stood, declaring his blessed lineage. من عرفني فقد عرفني ومن لم يعرفني فأنا أعرفه بنفسي وبأهل بيتي أنا ابن مكة ومنى أنا ابن محمد المصطفى نبي الله. The hall froze. The people listened in silence. Regret pierced their souls and tears began to fall as hearts awakened to the truth. Yazid, fearing the sermons would turn the people against him, ordered the captives to be thrown into the prison cells. In the dark cell, children slept. Sayyidah Zainab stayed awake, a shield of sorrow. In another corner, Imam Sajjad sat alone. Moonlight touched his frail figure, nor outlining his patience. Nights turned into weeks and weeks into months, with no end to the suffering. Imam spent these long hours in worship, bowing in sujud, whispering du'as that echoed through the darkness, and raising his bruised, chained hands towards the sky. Some narrations say they were held for months, others say for a year, but for the Ahlul Bayt in chains, time itself was swallowed by grief and patience. Whispers spread through Damascus. The people learned the truth. These captives, they are the Prophet's family. The news spread like fire. Anger rose in their hearts. They wished for the captives' freedom. Curses rained upon Yazid. Fearing the people, he ordered their release to return to Medina. After long months in chains, Imam Sajjad stepped into the sunlight, his first glimpse of freedom. The family was left alone outside Damascus to begin the painful journey home, and the road back to Medina felt like an eternity of sorrow. The city of Medina had already heard. Its people waited in sorrow. When the Ahlul Bayt entered, silence filled the streets. Every face bore the weight of tragedy. The house of Imam Sajjad was silent. Its emptiness spoke louder than words. Inside, every corner remembered loss. Absence lingered where love once lived. After Karbala, Imam Sajjad's life was marked by sorrow. He sat alone in Masjid an-Nabawi. His prayers filled the empty nights. When he passed through the bazaar of Medina, the butchers would cover the meat with cloth. They feared the sight of blood would reopen his wounds of Karbala. Imam lived nearly 34 years after Karbala. Every moment he bore grief with worship. His dua became his voice. His tears became his language. From that pain was born Sahifa Sajjadiya, a book of prayers, a legacy of faith.